every so often in BattleTech, something crazy will happen. And in round 4 of the BattleTech Irish Nationals this year, I got the crazy game. So my Mech Picks for the game were Striker, which was a 4-4, so decent. And then Grasshopper 4-5, fairly average, but it's a Grasshopper, so I couldn't say no to that. That's like, for me, an auto-include. It's such an easy mech to use, such an aggressive mech. Yeah, it's just a very good mech. My opponent, on the other hand, had chosen a Phoenix 3-5 and also a Striker 3-5. So I believe they had a better striker than me in terms of gunnery. And let's just go over very briefly the mechs themselves in case people don't really know what the setups of these mechs are. So I've already mentioned the Grasshopper. Essentially it's an energy mech, loads of medium lasers, a large laser, an LRM for like smaller LRM for some range plinking and so on. But effectively it's an energy mech, close range energy mech. The Striker, kind of a long range support mech, 80 tons, 200 armor, PVC, large laser, an autocannon 5, which is kind of in the same range bracket. And then for close combat, it's got a bunch of medium lasers. And then the Phoenix itself was a curious choice, one I wasn't too keen on, but my opponent decided to give it a go. And yeah, it's got good gunnery, all right, gunnery 3. But yeah, it's essentially a 50-ton mech with a PPC. And for me, that particular combination was not great. I didn't feel like it was one of the better mech picks that you can make of the 6 different choices that were available, because for me anyway, I felt like the Striker had already done the job of the Phoenix, if that makes sense. You already have a PPC. It's not like, I don't really know what it's adding that the Striker doesn't already bring to your team. Maybe I'm missing something. Like, it is true that the Phoenix has jump jets, but jump jets and a PPC doesn't seem like an amazing combination anyway. So, I mean, maybe it's my opponent's favorite mech, maybe it's someone's favorite mech out there, maybe he had the physical model to represent it as opposed to a proxy, or just like to play a Striker and a Phoenix, you know. But for me, I'd rather play the Striker and the Grasshopper. So, set it for the game. No particular map in this case. We were actually playing down the middle of 2 maps, which meant on my right side we had a huge forest. On the left side we had a sort of massive hill, and on my opponent's side a massive hill, like mountainous area as well. So we have the 2 Strikers having kind of a snipe off. The Phoenix and the Grasshopper get engaged in the forest. And in terms of the Striker on Striker, my opponent was at first playing a little bit too defensively, I felt, and actually coming off the back of round 3 and seeing how well the Thug did, I was kind of modifying my tactic as well. So I had a PPC energy mech here, and maybe I could cause some damage down the line and see what happens there. But I was really impressed by my opponent's ability. Like, you can say one thing about the mech picks, but one thing I was really impressed by my opponent is his ability to run mechs very hot. So I have a tendency to work out a couple of mathematical formulas to keep my mechs running cool. Like, what are the different weaponry I can use and different things I can do. I do a bit of literal algebra on my sheet. And this simplifies the gameplay so I can focus on just my tactics and not worry too much about heat. But this game made me realize that maybe there is a mistake in my calculations, because there's a lot of value in pushing your mechs a bit hotter, even if there's like a risk of an ammo explosion. At the end of the day, you're skipping forward in turns. If you get to shoot all your weapons as opposed to half of them, you're effectively moving 2 turns ahead in the game of me. So I was very impressed by my opponent's heat management, or I suppose heat abuse, in terms of the Striker. And yeah, he was able to run it hot without it affecting any combat ability, which is something maybe I need to reconsider. But anyway, the 2 mechs were trying to engage. I think in the initial phases, because of the range, even if he was shooting more, he wasn't really getting much more in. It wasn't having any impact on my Striker. He was standing in the open, I was standing on the hill. The Phoenix was really struggling to find any ground with my Grasshopper. He had some advantage at range. But once we got into that mid-range and starting to get affected by the PPC modifiers, you know, the Phoenix was having some difficulties against the Grasshopper. But then out of nowhere, I kind of had a sense that because my opponent was coming to me with his Striker, and I already had a terrain advantage, that he had actually split his 2 mechs. Like, even though my mechs were effectively engaging his separately, they were physically very close to each other on the board, where his two were very separated from each other. So if anything had gone wrong at any point, he would not have been able to support or back up his allied mech. And it sort of felt like his striker was getting out of position very quickly, so he started to aggressively move up the board, which I think was the right choice. And then out of nowhere, he rolls to hit with his PPC on the move, roll to hit, hits the head of my striker. I'm like, okay. And PPC going into the head, so the head takes 9 points of damage, and then one goes into criticals on the PPC. That's one hit on the head. Okay, roll criticals, gets the crit. Okay, roll, that's not good. Roll for location on the head, cockpit. Pilot killed. So this is on a mech that had only really sustained light damage to its right arm and was holding its own in position, no criticals. And the first thing that happens is it gets a lone critical hit to the head, roll for crit, and take out the cockpit. Any other system, and that mech would have been fine, especially since it wasn't moving. It had to be a cockpit hit. So immediately, I've lost 53% of my battle value. That's 53% points to my opponent in total for his ranking score. Doesn't affect the particular game we're playing. It's not how the rules work. But that was a huge loss. And then conversely, I was like, it's every so often this happens. Like maybe 1 in 10 games, 1 in 5 games, something like that. Something crazy will happen in BattleTech. So even though I had a good position, I was like strong position on the hill, doing well in terms of the shots I was getting off, and it didn't feel like that particular engagement was being effective. But the fact that I was delaying and tying up his striker for me was a win. I wasn't trying to destroy his striker. I was trying to prevent his striker from interfering with the Phoenix Grasshopper matchup, which I was winning by a considerable margin. Not necessarily my own skills, just the two mechs. The Grasshopper has a huge advantage there. So the longer I could keep his striker at bay, the more advantage I'm giving to my Grasshopper. So I wasn't necessarily looking to do damage, and I wasn't expecting damage back. We were at long range. So just to instantly lose my striker like that, the only thing that was keeping me at the game now with the Grasshopper was the distance of the striker from the main engagement between the Phoenix and the Grasshopper. That's the only thing that's keeping me in the game right now. And in addition, just out of nowhere, the Phoenix Hawk takes a shot at my my Grasshopper with his PPC. And guess where it hits? It hits in the head. So I get another hit in the head in the same game, which I don't know what the odds of that is, but anyway, again, PPC, 10 damage, that means 9 to the head. That's all my armor stripped. 1 point goes into the head. Roll for crits, no crits. And then after that, or possibly on the same round, I also simultaneously destroy the PPC on the Phoenix arm. So his right arm is destroyed. He loses the main armament, and that puts him down to a couple of SRMs. Now this is really a weird situation because I have never been so stressed about SRMs in my life, especially in SRM 2, because like we both realized what had happened and how crazy it was. So effectively what ended up happening is we had this weird duel between the Grasshopper and the Phoenix where I'm literally trying to destroy the Phoenix, blow its legs off, blow its arms off, finish it off. Whereas the Phoenix is jumping around the place, using its jump jets and using those SRMs to try and literally blow the head off, try to get another headshot. Because each of those missiles does 2 damage. I've only got 2 damage left in the head, and he had 2 SRM2s. So that's 4 missiles. Every turn, he has 4 chances to try and roll that 12, try to get that headshot, and he doesn't even need the criticals. So every time he was rolling, I was like really feeling those rolls, I could tell you, because it was just, if it happened again, it would just been too insane, and the battle itself was getting very crazy. And I guess luck was favoring me on the second mech because he didn't get the SRM. The SRMs were going everywhere and anywhere except for the head, and just through sheer volume of medium lasers and craziness, that means that I think I took out one of his legs, and I took out the other leg, and then the thing was like cored out. So I got the points for that. And let me just check now. The points of the Phoenix is 43%. So overall, that is a fairly convincing victory for my opponent, because that's 43 to 53%. Although his was a lucky shot, whereas mine I would consider a more legitimate kill. That's just how BattleTech goes, though. So that left me overall with 3 rounds, and that round there as well, No, you know what? I don't think I'll cut this into another video. I think I'll leave my summary actually on the round 4. And overall, I think that for my first time at this type of tournament, this type of event, I think overall I did quite well. 3 out of my 4 games, I had destroyed a single mech, which I think was quite good. I do wonder about my strategy of targeting and focusing on the lighter mech, because we only have an hour and a half. Yes, you do want to destroy both mechs, but I wonder, was it the right strategy? Because I'm essentially always going for the least value target first, trying to eliminate them off the board, but then that gives me almost no time to deal with the higher value target. And if you know how BattleTech works, you know, like a lucky headshot as a high value target is just, or a leg blown off is just as good on a high value target versus a low value target. And also, just mechs are very tough. Just mechs are tough. So I would not have enough time to actually destroy the bigger target if, you know, even if I succeeded on the lower one. So maybe this is not the best strategy. I'm not sure. It's just the strategy I followed. And also, you can see how it fell apart. That strategy fell apart completely in round 3. If you haven't watched that video already, there'll be a link somewhere on this video or in the description. But in round 3, yeah, that strategy did not work out. There was too many free PPC shots coming my way. But overall, I don't think I can complain about my performance as effectively a tournament newbie. I'm not necessarily new to BattleTech, but definitely new to playing under a tournament. I play more narrative BattleTech, and I enjoy building the models and that kind of thing. I pick my mechs based on how they look. So I was quite happy. I was quite happy because there was other people there who might struggle to destroy a single mech on the day, and I had some effective tactica going on, and a lot of, you know, wargame fundamentals definitely were working for me. And my final ranking was 15 out of 24 players that arrived. Originally it was going to be 32, but, you know, because of COVID, people had to drop out, so on. But so I came at 15 out of 24. And looking at that, I certainly, for next year's Irish Nationals, if I have the opportunity to go, of course, I think trying to aim to get into the top 10 or get into the top 12, that should be my goal for next year. That should be kind of my aim. I've definitely learned an awful lot from this tournament. And then talking about prize support, I ended up going home with one of those new urban mech models, and also an Agro Terra. So can't really complain, and I'm completely pumped to get my Capellian Confederates going, get them finished off, because I got a nice kind of flag mech for them to use at this stage. I normally don't collect Dark Age, I normally stay in Succession Errors and Clan Era and all that stuff. But hey, I'm not going to complain. Some nice Mech Picks, and if anyone's listening from the event, like, thanks for giving us the games. Thanks to the organizers for setting up the event. It was a very well organized event, that's for sure, especially with all the difficulties we had at the moment with what's going on in the world, and just also, I guess, part of it as well, you know, the nature of BattleTech is the games can be quite drawn out, and it can be hard to sometimes determine who the winner is. And I felt like the amount of work that went into the scoring system was excellent. I may be even able to convince my brother to play a bit more BattleTech, because one of his biggest complaints is the game plays too slow. But with this new scoring sheet, this sort of tournament style format, where you limit to an hour and a half, and then you play a single round, and then you calculate based on who did more damage to the other, and the battle value of your team determines percentage and so on. It's very easy. Within like 5 minutes, once you know how to use the sheet, you can instantly determine a winner within under 2 hours with BattleTech, and that's, for me, astonishing. And there was a huge amount of tactical depth, even just with 2 mechs. And I think one thing that really balanced out the player skills is the fact that it doesn't matter what mechs you have in your collection, or what mechs you're good at playing, or what different weird broken combos you have to play the Mech Picks for each round. So you have a choice of 6 different what would you call them? 6 different Mech Picks, I guess, mech team picks, or 4 different mechs, 4 or 5 different mechs that are kind of jungled around to different teams, different pilot skills, so on. That kind of levels the playing thrill. In many ways, there is no wrong choice. It's just, do you know how to effectively use the mech? And that's something that I really appreciated that the organizers did over something like, for example, if you played in a 40k tournament, it's always whoever has the most broken army, whoever has the most money, whoever has the most broken codex at any moment in time, they're going to have a huge advantage over maybe an old school collector or a hobbyist or a narrative player who's just building a real cool narrative army, or just their faction hasn't been updated in a couple of months or years or whatever. In this case, by providing the army picks and balancing them against each other, all of that was washed away, and I think it really made the BattleTech event shine. Not that you can't do that for 40k, but it would be much more difficult to do. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there because I don't want this video to be too much longer than the other rounds. And yeah, if you have any feedback on the tournament, if you have any questions, or you want to see any more follow-ups or more information on the mechs, or you have your own advice on how you would have handled the event differently, yeah, please leave it down in the description. Thanks for watching.